there. So there we go. All right. 3, 2, and 1. Well, Mr. Mayor Brent, welcome back. Mayor's Monday here at WSAU.com. Been a couple months since we've had the chance to talk to you. Obviously, you were uh campaigning. You were campaigning for yourself at one point, campaigning for your city as well in a couple of different avenues, and it seems like you've got everything going on the up and up there in Mosinee these days.
Right. Yeah. Mosinee continues to move along strong. Very happy about that. It's obviously, I always look at it as a work in progress. There's always something new to add to the list and work on, improve. So things are going well in Mosinee, from our downtown to our business park, to our infrastructure at the city. And now we're getting full swing into the fall, which is budget time at the local level. And that's what my focus has been on in multiple aspects. I'm responsible for a budget at the Mosinee Fire District. I'm responsible for a budget at the city of Mosinee. And all of that at the end of the day will impact property owners to see what their tax bill might look like for 2023. So.
Yeah, indeed. And obviously that's it, like you said, it's kind of taken up most of your time, and this time of year, again, and I can attest to this now that I've been a homeowner for a couple of years. It's something that is kind of constantly on your mind, and you're thinking, okay, when am I going to get that update? When am I going to get that update? Or maybe in some cases, what kind of surprise is it going to be? Is it going to be a good surprise or a not so good surprise? So from what you can tell us now, what are things looking in Mosinee that people may be pleasantly surprised or unpleasantly surprised about?
Well, and actually, right now, as we sit here in the middle of October, it's too early to tell, because we're still working to. Well, how we start the budget process really is we have department heads come in from public works to public safety, and we don't necessarily put demands on them to start off with. We ask them for what, within reason, they feel they need for their respective departments and what projects they foresee. Now, obviously, year after year, there's many things on their list that we just simply are not able to tackle because it would be too much of a burden on the taxpayer. But we still need to continue to talk about those and see when and where we might fit them in the future, if not this year. So we've had those initial discussions with one of our workshops, and we'll have another workshop coming up this coming Monday to now look at, okay, what sort of revenue sources are we anticipating? We're just now getting numbers on things like general state aid, general transportation aid, and those are our two biggest, number 2 and 3 sources of revenue behind, excuse me, behind property taxes. So we're going to take a look at that as well. And remember that it's also the bottom line tax bill is a function of not only what the city of Mosinee needs to assess for taxes, but also what several other taxing entities need to assess that we don't have control over. And that would be Marathon County, the Mosinee School District, and the Technical College. And then also sometimes the lottery credit comes into play and can affect your tax bill. So I not only have discussions within the city, but I reach out and I have discussions with administration at the school district to see what they're looking at as well. Getting some initial positive feedback on them that they may be looking at a good year for the taxpayer. So all that's going to come into play. And right now, I think it's too early to tell. But what I can say is that unfortunately, now I've been doing this each year since 2015, that it seems every year you have to get more and more creative to come up with a way to meet your needs, to move your city forward, but also be reasonable for your taxpayer. And that becomes more and more of a challenge every year just because of the environment we live in. And that's an environment of rising costs, inflation, that all affects you, and you have to find a way to deal with that. So, but that's the job that I signed up for and enjoyed doing it. So we will continue on, and I think we'll have certainly we'll have a better answer for people who are interested in what the property tax bill is going to look like by early to mid-November. In fact, we'll be publishing a proposed budget in the Mosinee Times, which is our official city newspaper, come mid-November, and then anticipate passing some budget at the end of November so that folks can get that tax bill as early as possible. And people like to pay their taxes, some of them by January 1st. So you can have that for your income tax purposes.
Indeed. And I know that the other one of the other big things that you have to look at every year, you mentioned inflation, and uh, that's not only on the asphalt that you're going to put on the roads or the salt that you might put down on the roads in the wintertime. That's also for what it's going to cost for your people, because I know a lot of municipalities say just even with the state constraints on the net new construction that they can look at raising the budget by, that in itself doesn't even keep up with like the health insurance costs for the full-time city employees. So that's something else that you have to take into account, correct?
That's true. We are constrained by state law as to how much we can raise our levy, and that has to do with whether we've had new construction in the community over the preceding year. And you're right, for some cities that are constrained by that, they're unable to raise the levy to tax, and yet they have obligations to meet. There are exceptions to that levy. Unfortunately, that can include taking on debt. Payments for debt service is an exception to levy limits that constrain us. But the larger point you bring up is the important one, that one of the challenges we face is not only inflation and rising costs, but rising costs in terms of personnel. You know, the personnel demands to increase wages are greater than they were before because of other factors I mentioned, like obviously the cost of living, which is going up. We're going to be going into union negotiations this year with the Professional Police Association. And then we're also dealing with non-union represented employees that do look to those union negotiations as well and expect something complimentary. You know, the hardest part of my job is you always want to please everybody, but you got to remember that you represent over 4,000 individuals in the city, and they pay a property tax bill, and those are the most important people that you want to please because those are the people you represent. The hardest part of this job is in some situations having to say no, but that's why the job isn't easy and not everybody wants to do it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And again, we'll look forward to seeing what comes of that, and what you can end up getting done going into 2023. And some of that could include road projects. And I know you've said that in the past you don't have a lot of the big sexy type road projects, but there are still roads that need to be maintained out there. So what could people maybe expect going into next year in that department?
Well, fortunately, this year we were able to get some of our main roads resurfaced, and that's because they're under the jurisdiction of the state of Wisconsin. State Highway 153 through downtown was completely resurfaced. We were able to work with the state to also get them to pick up the tab to resurface a city street for us that was adjacent to that main highway. So that was very helpful. And then come 2024, so I'm skipping over a year, but we are already planning for the borrowing that will be done to resurface a large section of Main Street from where State Highway 153 ends out through to the edge of our community. And so that'll be a major undertaking. We were able to get a state city cost share with that, where the state grant program is picking up a large percentage of the tab, but that still leaves a hefty dollar amount on the city to plan for. So 2024 will be a busy year. 2023, in terms of road projects, unfortunately, may not be as busy of a year because we lack the funds at the end of the day to do a lot of those projects we want to. When we have a larger project coming up in 2024 that I mentioned that we'll have to do a bonding for, where you it's not just a borrowing, you are bonding, which means you're taking out a larger amount of money. That's actually an opportunity for the city to rope in other smaller street projects. If we're going to be doing a large borrowing already, we can get some smaller projects roped into that. So I think 2024 will be a busier year for street construction. Next year, not so much.
Gotcha. So we'll look forward to seeing the discussion around that over the next few years. But you mentioned one big road project in there, State Highway 153. I told you before we started recording, I was just down there to see Governor Tony Evers. He actually, one of the other things that we're probably not going to talk about, he gave you a pretty nice grant to help the ambulance and fire district. You're getting some new equipment there. So first off, I guess congratulations on that. But most importantly, tell you what, that corridor there, 153, is going to look great once your hotel is done because they wasted no time getting that up. In fact, I wouldn't say it's near substantially completed, but I think a lot of people would probably be surprised at how quickly they've gotten moving on that. And that's a development that you mentioned that you're really excited about because that area of town is hopping.
It is, right. So, and a couple things there. Just finishing up on the budget. A fire and EMS department, especially at the local level, is becoming one of the most costly things to try and continue to sustain. It is probably one of the toughest parts of my job each year is to pass separately a fire and EMS budget that meets our needs. So, I don't often agree with what the governor doles out grant money for, but in this case, I certainly agree with this one because it's fire and EMS, it's productive and use of taxpayer funds, and it's becoming just almost unsustainable to do some of the things we need to do. Those funds will be used for some equipment, and also we have plans to use some of those funds for recruitment and retention because it's becoming very difficult to get personnel to stay and come to a smaller fire department. So those funds will be put towards good use for the taxpayer. And the hotel, then you mentioned in our downtown, totally separate subject, but yes, that's moving along at rapid pace. We expect the 4-story, 54-unit hotel to be open within the first part of next year. And great compliment to our downtown, which just continues to expand and attract people from outside Mosinee. There are people that haven't been to Mosinee in a couple of years would be quite surprised if they come to downtown to see what it's become from what it was. So we're very proud of that and happy that we've attracted investment of that size for our community.
Yeah. And, you and I, we've talked about the brewery quite a bit, but I can tell you the number of places that I've been in the state where I've stopped in to have a beverage or two or have a meal where I've seen that beautiful Mosinee Brewing Company logo on the wall in one form or another, be that on a tap handle, be that on an aluminum sign. It's probably some of the best marketing that your city can buy.
Right. And, the owner of that establishment's been fantastic to work with. I've worked with her since day one. And it really was a great partnership. And she has through Mosinee Brewing Company and in many other ways been extremely committed to our community. I was very proud to be a member of the business community and does great things to promote our city outside of it and help it grow and bring people into it. So just very thrilled to have them.
And while you're there, taking in a trivia night or something like that and having a drink, you now may have another option as well just down the street for entertainment, because you were telling me you've got a little concert venue that has kind of created a little buzz in that area as well.
We do. We had a business that went undertook rather a renovation of an older building in downtown, did a fantastic job on the interior and exterior, and uses that to host music events several times, I believe, a month. And you can get tickets online, as I understand it, to go to those in advance. And I encourage everybody to do it. It's just a beautiful, comfortable place to hang out. And then during the daytime, a coffee shop operates there. And we've been getting requests for another downtown coffee shop since I've been here. So it was great to see that come to downtown, and it's just another example of how people see Mosinee as a friendly place to do business and enjoy being here.
Indeed. Now, the one thing that we've got to find a way to figure out over the next couple of years, Chick-fil-A.
Yeah.
Have you had those discussions yet? I mean, you said you've taken requests for a coffee shop, you took requests for a brewery. I'm just going to throw this one on your plate too.
Yeah.
Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, I would welcome Chick-fil-A. I haven't had Chick-fil-A in a long time. When I went to law school, there was one like a block away from my apartment, so I frequented that quite a bit. But no, Chick-fil-A hasn't been calling me, but they're always welcome.
Indeed. And I'm just saying we can make this happen. My job in central Wisconsin will not be done until we have a Chick-fil-A somewhere.
Oh, good. Keep at it.
Absolutely. Brent, we appreciate the time. We'll look forward to chatting again down the road.
Thank you, Mike. Have a good day.